Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about The Batman, which is with the Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves Batman movie that's coming out in March 4th. I want to talk a little bit about it, and so I'm just going to get right into it, I guess. This is not a video that is a predictions video, or I don't want to talk about the actual movie per se, because I think there's been so many videos out there that have talked about what this movie is going to be about, and if I talk about it, I'm just going to be repeating the same things, and there's no real point for me to do that. So what I want to talk about more or less in this video is if they apparently, according to some leaks, there's going to be 2 other Robert Pattinson films going to be coming out. So it's going to be a Batman trilogy that they're making, which I'm really excited for. But I mostly want to talk about what I want to see those movies do and what kind of storylines and things I would like to see them do to make it different than other films in the past and other versions of Batman in the past. And hopefully we'll be able to see a more comic accurate version of The Dark Knight on live action. So I have 4 major topics I want to talk about, and the first one, I'll just get right into it, is I hope that, although I by the looks of this movie and by the looks of the trailers and how people are talking about it and how people are talking about it in DC fandom, it's going to be a darker kind of film. It's going to be more like a Dark Knight kind of style, maybe even more dark than that. I don't know, because even just by all the trailers, it looks visually darker, but it also looks because they're going for a Zodiac killer kind of style with Riddler, which is kind of cool, and I like that style. But I hope that this film is kind of because I imagine they're taking it more of they're not doing a Batman origin story, but they're doing a Bruce Wayne origin story. And by the end of this film, you're going to see him more adapt the playboy billionaire kind of a vibe that we've always seen Batman have. And obviously he doesn't have that in any of the trailers. So I imagine at the end of this, you'll kind of see him take on that kind of persona to kind of keep his identity more of a secret. Because right now he just seems like super emo, which it looks really cool, but I hope that that's kind of where they go with it. And I hope in the next couple films he isn't as dark. Not that I don't like it, but I think it's also kind of been done to death with Batman v Superman, Ben Affleck, and him basically killing people, and then also Christian Bale as in The Dark Knight. That was a really dark version of Batman. So. Not to say I don't like that version. I just think there are other versions out there that I think need to be explored, especially because we have not gotten a main comic accurate version of Batman on screen. Considering there's been 7 people to play Batman, there's not one version I can say is the comic accurate version, except for the Arkham version that is the closest thing to the comics that I can think of. Now, the main thing with that is just because I don't know if it's because just that's how movies are and that's how they want to make the movies, because for whatever reason, they only have 3 or 4 versions of Batman that they know how to put on screen. They have the goofy version, they have murderous killer, and then they have dark and gritty. Those are the only versions you see of Batman on screen. And they're yes, he is all of those things. He is all of those things and more. And I think it's just it hasn't been visually shown on screen. And one way to easily fix Robert Pattinson's Batman from not being too dark and just being a carbon copy of Christian Bale is a very easy topic, which I'm going to this is a perfect segue, is Robin. And that is something I want to talk about extensively in this video. I think they need to do a Robin in this trilogy. I think to separate it from the Dark Knight trilogy, you are going to need to do a Robin. I know the Dark Knight trilogy kind of did it in Dark Knight Rises. They kind of introduced Robin. Not really. He was more or less just a cop, and he wasn't even Dick Grayson or Jason Todd or any of the Robins that we even know of. He was just, I don't even know what his name was. His name was Robin. Anyway, so I think to separate this version of Batman from previous iterations, they need to introduce a Robin. And I just think that's what they could use very easily to help this guy who seems to be in a very dark place right now, to use Robin as the bright, or the light in a dark cave, to kind of help him become a better person. And then it would be really interesting, and this is kind of what's also going to lead to my next topic. It'd be really interesting if you in like let's say this like the part two to the Batman, you introduce Robin, you have him being trained, and then you have him die to the Joker, and then in the third movie, you have it's Red Hood, and that's why I think for this version of Batman, it would be better if they introduced Jason Todd and not Dick Grayson. Now, my reasoning for that is because of the world that they seem to be in, and I think just because of the color grading and how this, or maybe not the color, but like just because of how these movies or how this movie is looking so far, it makes more sense, especially for this style of Batman, to introduce a version of Robin that you know you're not going to keep around and you're going to kill and turn into a villain. And as dark as that might sound, I don't think that's that far-fetched. I think Matt Reeves is perfectly capable of doing something like that, and in doing a movie where it's a Batman and Robin movie and you grow attached to this brotherhood and father and son relationship that these two would have, and then by the end of it, and you have Joker in the background, which you would have to introduce at some point, which I'll get into that later. And then you introduce Robin as this light to Batman, and this like beacon of hope for him to be a better person. And then right as everything is going good, you take that away, and you have Batman not wanting to kill the Joker because he doesn't want to break his one rule. But because of that one rule, you're allowing the person who killed your only you killed the person who you brought into this world, you letting him stay alive, which would be the driving force of the third film, which would probably be, I would just call it the Batman Under the Red Hood. Now, when it comes to Robin and Red Hood, I think, especially with Jason Todd, he's one of those characters that I think you can't do it the way other versions have, which like the Arkham Knight version. As good as that version I think was and could have been, I hated the fact that they made him... Okay, I don't like when they take a character in the comics who has like a good backstory and good motives and good everything, and then they just turn him into a whiny lunatic who is just wanting to kill Batman because. Perfect example is the Red Hood or Arkham Knight in Batman. He comes in as the main bad guy, and he doesn't have the same morality or morals or code as he does in Under the Red Hood, and like the Under the Red Hood animated movie or the comic that it's based off of. But I think there's a lot of versions of Red Hood out there that have just explored him as just a murderous killer who just wants to get back at somebody, and that is not 100% true to the source material. Yes, he does want to get back at Batman for allowing him to die, but it's through showing Batman that killing people is the right thing to do to permanently get rid of them from the crime table. And I think that's something that and that's what I was hoping they would do in Titans, and that's not what they did with that character. I should also say Red Hood's probably one of my favorite comic book characters of all time, so that's why I'm able to talk about it for so long. I just love the style of character, and I think if they don't use him eventually in a good way, I'm gonna be really sad, and it's just gonna really depress me. But moving on, I want to talk about the Joker, and as much as I know he's overdone, we've gotten so many versions of Joker, just as we've gotten so many versions of Batman. I think they got to do him again. I think Joker is one of those characters that, you know, you need him to go up against Batman at some point. Their dynamic is too good, and he's too an iconic of a character to not put in this trilogy. However, I don't think they should do Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. As great as that movie was, I think that should be its standalone film, and I do think bringing him in to any sort of universe would ruin that film and that aspect of the film. I don't even like the idea of doing a sequel for that film, which I know they're doing, unless they're going to bring in Willem Dafoe and have him play Joker. That's the only way I will like kind of accept that film. But if they do another film and it's just him doing Joker things, it's going to completely ruin that film. And anyway, moving on. I think if they're going to do a new Joker, they shouldn't do the crazy psychopath that they've always done, or anarchist, or anything like that. As great as that version is, and you know, Heath Ledger's Joker. He's probably one of my favorite characters of all time. I think The Dark Knight is probably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. However, I think if they're going to do a version of Joker, I think they should stick to the source material and go for a more Mark Hamill, Jack Nicholson style of Joker that's a little bit more goofy and a little bit more about presentation than he is just about sending a message, because I think that's kind of been lost in translation when it comes to the Joker. When you look at versions of Joker, especially the Mark Hamill version, it's more about doing crimes in a way that people will remember than it is about sending people a message to show anybody can become crazy, or to show people that, you know, anybody can become a psychopath. It isn't about that. It's about messing with Batman in a way that people will remember. If you've played the Arkham games, you know what I'm talking about. Joker's biggest fear is not being beaten by Batman. It's being forgotten. And I think that is something that we've kind of lost in some versions of Joker, because I think they play him off as too much of as a psychopath, which I think obviously he is. He is that. But I think they could do a version of Joker that does fall into the chemicals, does get his skin turned pale, and does get up and do a whole dance number, because that's what Joker would do. He would do that just to mess with Batman. And, you know, that whole song that he'd be singing is just about how he killed a bunch of his friends. Roll the clip.
Nobody serenades you but me, Bat. Take it away, boys. Take me on home.
So yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at, is that they could do something like a Mark Hamill style Joker, and I think it would be a very easy way to make these darker Batman films a little bit brighter, but then you could still make Joker menacing in a way that is kind of hilariously psychotic and dark in a way, and still make him be the Joker, but have him be a different version that would separate him from Heath Ledger and Joaquin. Yeah, so I hope they do the Joker, but they do it in a different way that's original and not the same thing. Because if we get a rinse repeat, it's just gonna seem really weird, and it's just gonna be overshadowed by what came before. Moving on from Joker, because he is a villain we've seen a lot, I would like to talk about some other villains that I would love to see done and redone. One of them in particular that needs to be redone, because I think it was horrendous when he was done, and you probably already know what I'm talking about. Some villains I would like to see done. You've probably already heard a bunch of these online, but Mr. Freeze is definitely one of them. I think he has such a cool story, and Arnold did his best with what he was given with by Joel Schumacher, but yeah, that was just no.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
The next one is Court of Owls. I think is a villain that people have been really wanting to see, and I think for this version of Batman, it would work perfectly. It would set off that like noir style Batman vibe, and you can introduce Talos and introduce all these different people, and I think that'd be really sick. My only problem with the Court of Owls is, especially because you're doing Riddler, it depends on how they're doing it. It's like, because how they like, you wouldn't want to make it seem too similar, right? Like, you wouldn't want to make it seem like it's just an organized like killings, like they're just killing people of high power so they can stay in power or something. But anyway, and the last one, he isn't really a main villain, but someone you could kind of use as side villain, similar to what they're going to be doing with Penguin in this one, is Victor Zazz. It's someone I haven't heard people talk about enough. Someone who I didn't really know of before the Arkham games, because I don't read too many comics. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. I watch almost every Batman film and like superhero film in general. And then I played the Batman games. And Zazz is one of those characters who I think is fascinating, but also kind of, you could kind of do in a way what I was talking about with Joker, where if you want to do the psychopath, that's the character you do, and then you do Joker as more of the presentation kind of villain, who's still crazy, but you can kind of have Zazz be the serial killer and the more crazier kind of side to it all. So I think that would be really interesting. I mean, so there's also obviously other villains I'd like to see. Like obviously Poison Ivy, I think really needs a new addition. Um, oh man, Clayface, I think would be really sick. Although I don't know how they would do that because in this world they don't seem like they're doing too many like crazily, but I don't know, like it doesn't seem like a universe that's gonna have too like much crazy powers, but they could work it in. I mean, there's so many other Batman villains I'd love to see, but I just hope they avoid some of the ones that we have already seen. I'd like them to avoid Bane and Scarecrow, and even like Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows. I think they should completely avoid them unless they do the League of Shadows as like the original League of Shadows. Like they're like you do Ra's al Ghul, but it's the Lazarus Pit Ra's al Ghul. It's not just Liam Neeson who's just a ninja. Like as cool as that was, Liam Neeson, good casting. Don't get me wrong, but like I think if they're gonna do Ra's al Ghul, do Ra's al Ghul from the comics and the Arkham games. So, I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We have not gotten the comic accurate version of Batman outside of the Arkham games. I think he is the most comic accurate version. But yeah, I think those are my hopes for the Batman and for what they do with the Cape Crusader. And I hope they bring in the dynamic duo eventually. I don't know, man. I really hope this movie is good. Because I think DC needs a win. I think they've gotten shit on a lot lately, especially because Marvel's been coming out with some bangers lately. They have all their new shows and stuff, which have been really kick-ass. And then obviously, Spider-Man No Way Home has been really sick. But, I mean, I guess I haven't seen Peacemaker. So, I mean, I don't have HBO. So, I mean, if Peacemaker's really good, I've heard it's good, but I don't know. But anyway, that's going to be my picks for what I think they should do with the next Batman trilogy. And yeah, I hope if you guys agree, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Go check out the Twitch channel because I'm always streaming video games over there. And if you guys would like me to play anything except for Minecraft, please let me know because that's all I've been really doing. But I do plan on playing other things. I'm going to be doing a Risk stream where we're going to play Risk World Domination. And we even might allow it so then you guys can join. But the only way you guys can really join is if you're a part of my Discord. So good segue. Join my Discord, which will also be down in the description. So yeah, you can join up on that. And when I start streaming, if we're allowing people to join, I'll let you know. And then you can watch the stream and all that stuff. Outside of that, I just wanted to say, I know I announced it on the Discord. If you're a part of the Discord, you already know this. But I have not been streaming on Twitch over the last few days. Mostly because I've been kind of having a weird sleep schedule. Even this video, I meant to record it earlier today, and I didn't because I slept in too much. I've had this whole week off, and for whatever reason, whenever I have a bunch of time off and I'm not doing anything the next day, I just can't fall asleep at night. And it's not even a problem of me like not getting up. I just can't fall asleep at night, and like my brain is always active. And then yeah, so, but anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and do all the stuff I said earlier. And yeah, if you have anything you want to add to my list of the Batman stuff, put it in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later.